Is Elias Pettersson back on the trade market? It maybe is that he never left the trade market. There is more noise about him today from him. Plus, Sabres and Ducks. Are the Sabres about to get on a roll? They might be. And the lineup is a big reason why. We'll get to that coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome in, and thanks for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast and making us your first listen every day, especially you everydayers. Be sure to come back tomorrow. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. That does include checking us out on our YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe us there. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be sure to check us out on our Locked On Sabres Text Club. If you are not already a subscriber, you can sign up for that by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. Been trying to throw some Amerks updates in there as the season winds down as well. And they are in first place in the AHL, but a lot of Sabres to get to on this episode. We will get to tonight's matchup between the Sabres and the Ducks a little bit later on in today's show. I've got a really optimistic thought about the Sabres by looking at their lineup, potential lineup for tonight's game. There is an injury update where Alex Tuch, Jason Zucker are game time decisions, so we don't really know if they're going to play. It does sound like both guys are short term, though, so that's at least good. If they do play, just looking at the lineup, I feel like it's as good as it's been all season with some of the guys that they've got back into the lineup. But we'll get to that coming up on today's episode. Before we get to any of that, though, I do want to get to some of our texts. And then Elias Pettersson, this guy's firing things up again. And I think it really could end in a trade for Elias Pettersson. And if it does end in a trade, then we got to circle back to the Sabres stance in that. One texter, though, wrote in that I wanted to get to about the way the Sabres lineup is currently constructed. And when you list the lines out the way it looks, I actually asked Lindy Ruff this morning about this player individually, and that is Zack Benson, who actually has an assist in back-to-back games. And one texter wrote in like, I don't really know how I feel about Zack Benson playing on the fourth line. Because right now, you look at the lines listed out, and it's Peyton Krebs at center with Zack Benson on the left and Beck Malenstein on the right. That's the fourth line. That's at least how it's listed, is the fourth line. The thing, though, is I don't really think Benson is playing a role that is all that different than what he had been playing before when he was on the third line. Now, it's different than the beginning of the season. Beginning of the year, Benson saw the top six a lot. But now that guys have gotten healthier, remember Tage missed some time, he is playing on a fourth line. Last game, he played 14:02. That's 40 seconds under what his average is for the season. He played 11:44 against Nashville. That was before the break, and he did get benched a little bit in that game. But he played a couple games before that, 12 minutes, 9 seconds, 12 minutes, 39 seconds, 10 minutes, 56 seconds. I just think his ice time has gone down a little bit over the last, the last 5 games, let's say. The Sabres been on this little bit of a heater, 5 of their last 6 wins. And sure, he's played a little bit more of a depth role. And we'll get to more about Benson after the season, because I'm always really back and forth on him. I love the player. I love watching him. I really think he's super intelligent. I think Lindy, though, is playing him in more protected minutes and on a line that is a little bit more defensively responsible to not thrust him into a position to have to score. He's really not capable yet. We all see it. He's not capable of beating goalies one-on-one. So I think Lindy has arrived at a point in the season where let me just put Benson down on a line where he can focus on being responsible in his own end and being an energy guy and getting in opponents' heads, right? Because he's definitely someone that does some stuff after the whistle. And let him just penalty kill too. I think that's the role that Benson has kind of found. Is it a little disappointing that it's not any different really than last season. I think it's a little disappointing. But 19 years old, you could argue he still shouldn't really be in the NHL. He's just on a team that kind of has needed him to be. And he's been smart enough and mature enough to kind of get himself in there anyway. So good question, though. Let's get to the trade market. Elias Pettersson made some comments last night that have him being the subject of trade conversations again in the league here on this Tuesday. Elias Pettersson last night, after, by the way, having a rough go of it at the Four Nations. He did not play well at the Four Nations for Sweden at all. He comes back to Sweden, not back to Sweden, excuse me, back to Vancouver. And in the 2 games since, he has 1 assist, no goals, and he played 15:59 of ice time and then 18:11 of ice time. So he's playing fewer minutes than ever before. And last night, I guess there was a moment where he was in alone and he had an opportunity to tie the hockey game late and completely missed the net. Like, didn't even challenge the goaltender. And Rick Tocchet, his coach, talked about that moment. Like, you got to hit the net. You got to test the goalie. Like, didn't really hold back. He wasn't super critical, but he didn't also pull any punches. And then Pettersson got asked about it. And Pettersson got asked by the media about, is it frustrating? Is it frustrating to have that happen? And he said, no, it's more annoying to deal with the media. That was the comment that Pettersson gave, was, let me just blame the media here. Not give any other reason why, or like an insight into what's going on. It was just, no, to be honest, I want that pressure. It's up to me. He said that a month ago. Today, he says it's more annoying to deal with the media. He is, I don't know, trying to read his mind a little bit, because that didn't sit well in Vancouver, right? A hockey hotbed like Vancouver in Canada. That created a firestorm today, and it certainly did. What's going on with that guy? I mean, has it ever sounded like a guy needs a change of scenery more? And sure, you could argue Buffalo is not the change of scenery that he needs, but hey, it's a change of scenery. Frank Saravelli of Daily Faceoff, one of the top insiders in the game, he actually went on Vancouver radio today, and he had a really good comment, I thought, a point about Pettersson that I think is why he's going to get dealt. I think this is probably what the Canucks are thinking, especially Jim Rutherford, an old school president like they've got there. He said, when first it is with the knee tendonitis, I guess that was happening early in the year. Sarah, let's read the quote. First it was the knee tendonitis. Then it was JT Miller. Now it's the media's fault. When is Elias Pettersson going to take any accountability for his own game? And I think that's completely fair, because that's right. Why is it that first it was injuries, then it was, JT Miller hates me and we're fighting in the locker room, and now he's gone on to blame the media? So you might be listening to this as a Saber fan, though, and think, man, all this attention that we've been spending on this guy, are we sure that he's a good idea for the Buffalo Sabres? And I think that's a valid wonder and a valid question. And I'm at a point where I guess if you told me I don't want to trade for Pettersson, there's too much smoke with this guy, and I can't have more of that in the Saber locker room, when you might already, think that there is some in that locker room already of this kind of stuff, accountability questions and maturity. I don't want more of that. I get it. For me, I am still very much in the camp of, I don't care. This is how I get talent. I'm the Buffalo Sabres. How do I get superstar level talent? This is the only environment that I can ever get that done. Is a guy has become rotten in a sense, or at least has red flags. That's the only way for me to maybe get a deal like that done. I've got to take risk to get the big success, to get the big win in a trade. And, well, these are your red flags. This is why he's available. Because, he's blaming the media now, and he's not playing well, and his confidence looks shattered in Vancouver. I would want to just take the bet on, let me get him here. Let me kind of wake him up a little bit. Maybe the trade will shake him back into what he was before. Like, just grab him and shake him. Like, hey, dude, you just got traded. This is how your career is going right now. You just signed a contract there, probably thought you were going to be there for 8 years, and bam, in a year and a half, you're already on a new team because you're not doing your job. And maybe that could shake him awake. Maybe hooking up with Rasmus Dahlin on the same team could shake him back into place. It is a risk. No doubt. There is risk attached with this guy because he is a super highly paid player, over $11 million a year, that's currently looks like he's got confidence problems, looks like he might have maturity problems, and you just don't know if he is going to return to form. Personally, if I'm the Sabres GM, I am absolutely going to take the bet that he is going to return to form. I'm going to take the bet. I'm going to trade Cousins, Byram. I'm going to call up Vancouver this morning. Maybe I haven't talked to them for a couple of weeks. I don't know if that's been ongoing or if that's stopped after JT Miller got traded a couple of weeks ago. Whatever. This morning, if I'm Kevin Adams, I am still calling the Canucks. I'm calling Patrick Alvin, their GM. I'm calling Jim Rutherford. I'm still trying to get this deal done. I'm trying to win the Pettersson sweepstakes. And if anything, maybe what he did last night in the locker room, making that comment about the media and maybe some of the reaction that you've seen today. A lot of the Vancouver people, I saw, was it Charging Buffalo? One of our local Saber Twitter accounts pointed this out, that listening to the Vancouver people, the guys that cover the team, the beat reporters, the radio guys, they all kind of sound like he's getting dealt. And if he's going to get dealt, the last time we thought he was getting traded, the Sabres were the front runners. So I'm back to thinking that the Sabres can get this deal done. We'll see if that heats up, though, between now and the trade deadline. I kind of feel like we're going to re-engage in Pettersson trade talk because it kind of sounds like it's real again. But we'll get to that later in the week. And, of course, lots next week as we approach the trade deadline, which is coming up on March 7th. But when we come back, I want to take a look at the way the Sabres lineup is constructed right now. And are they about to get hot? I think they might be about to go on a run here. And I'll explain why I think that when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs. Put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Been in a spot where you need to hire, like, again, yesterday, the pressure is on. Every day without the right person can be a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs comes in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast here on a Tuesday game day. The Sabres and the Ducks later tonight, 7 o'clock at KeyBank Center. The Sabres are looking for their 6th home win in a row. They have not won 6 home games in a row since the 10-game win streak in 2018. It has been 7 years, almost 7 years, 6.5 years, since the Sabres have won this many games at home. They have a chance to do it tonight against a pretty weak opponent. Now, not just for tonight's game, but for the next couple of weeks, especially going into the trade deadline. They have 6 more games between now and the trade deadline. I feel like the Sabres might be about to get hot. And the biggest reason why, as if you're watching along on YouTube, put up what the lineup kind of looks like for tonight's game, and that's if Alex Tuch and Jason Zucker play, by the way, which is a little bit of a question still. But if you look at their lineup, it's not looking that bad at all. Now that they are healthy again, it looks whole to me. The lineup looks whole. And I can't remember the last time that I really felt that way, because you had Jordan Greenway out for a while. He is back in the lineup. You had Tage Thompson, who missed some time and then was playing injured. He's playing healthy and playing awesome on the top line. You had, who else? You had Beck Malenstein, if you want. He missed some time. You had Yuri Kulik, who wasn't really a part of the regular rotation early on in the year when they were a little bit healthier. And remember, Rasmus Dahlin missed time during that 13-game losing streak and was playing injured at the beginning of the year. He is now playing healthy. So between Thompson and Greenway and Dahlin and Kulik, I just think that the lineup looks more complete than it has all year. I would say that if they are to get Tuch and Zucker back, that this is the best lineup that they're going to put on the ice. I think in the next couple of games, the next couple of weeks, this is the best lineup they've had all year. And that really does make me confident they can go on a little bit of a run. I still don't think they can make the playoffs, but can they make the season interesting again? I think there's a shot. When you look at the lineup, I mean, a text question from today about Benson on the fourth line. I mean, I would like to see Benson get a few more minutes, maybe playing on a third line, but you just don't need him to. Look at the left wing depth. That 1 to 4 left wing right now for the Buffalo Sabres. Peterka, Zucker, Greenway, Benson. Tell me the last time you have seen a Sabres lineup at any position, center, right wing, the last time you had one position look as good, 1 to 4, as you have right now with Peterka, Zucker, Greenway, Benson. I think you're going to have a tough time finding a 4 that's that good. I think they could go on a little bit of a run here. Now, it's not just about the lineup. I think that's the biggest reason why I'm feeling pretty good. They also just won 8-2. That helps, right? They've also won 5 of 6. That helps. They've won 5 in a row at home. You got to go back to before the break for that. That helps too. It also is the caliber of opponent that they have coming up on the schedule. Not just that they are healthier right now. Again, the asterisks on Tuch and Zucker. But Anaheim tonight, that's the 24th place team in the league. In the full 32 league standings. Tonight they play the 24th best team in the league. Then they play Carolina, and that's a daunting task. Absolutely. Then 2 games against Montreal, 25th. So 24th, 25th, 25th. San Jose, dead last. 32nd in the NHL. And then you have Tampa, who is still, somewhat Tampa, pretty close to it. But of your next 6 games, 3 of them, really of their next 5 games, 4, because Montreal twice, Anaheim and San Jose, that's 4 super winnable games. And I kind of want to believe that they can go on a run in the next 5 and maybe pull to within 7 points, something around there, and, have us feeling like there could be meaningful games in March on the way. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. The lineup is number 1. The schedule is number 2 for that reason. Now, this is as we start to transition to tonight's game. The guy I'm locked in on tonight and going forward for the next couple of weeks, because I've got confidence in their blue line, and currently I've got confidence in their forward group. The guy that I need to see answer the bell in the next couple of weeks for them to go on a run is 100%, in my opinion, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Luukkonen is going to get a lot of games here coming up, and he had a really good night the other night against the New York Rangers, but he is still not having a great season. Is it horrible? No, it's fine. It's maybe a little bit below average, maybe even you could say below average, just straight up. He has a 19-16-4 record on the season, an 895 save percentage, and he is -6.5 goals saved above expected. So he's allowed almost one more goal on the year than he should have. He's basically right around average. He's right around, not even average, he's right around allowing what he should. Just a slight step below that. That ranks out of 80 qualifying goaltenders on the year, 50th. So you're a slightly below average goaltender on the year. Not even starting goalie, just goalie. And he's going to have to be better than that. If they're going to get close, if they're going to make us think at any point during the rest of the year that they're in it, he's going to have to be better than what he was doing at the beginning of the year and really up to this point. Especially Devin Levi, the Devin Levi hype train is rolling back into the station. And if Luukkonen wants to kind of fend that off in the summer, then him having a really strong end of the year would be really good. All right, when we come back, more about this matchup, the odds for tonight's game, and kind of what the Ducks have going on. No Trevor Zegras tonight. That when we come back here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is going to be a game day episode. We are going to get you into tonight's matchup, 7 o'clock against the Anaheim Ducks. I mentioned what the player that I'm locked in on for tonight is UPL. I showed you the lines for tonight's game. If you are not watching the show, you want to hear those. Kulik, Peterka, Thompson, McLeod, Zucker, Tuck. That's if those two play. This is an estimation. They didn't have a full morning skate. Cousins, Greenway, Quinn, and then Krebs, Malenstein, Benson, Byram and Dahlin, Power and Samuelson, Gilbert, and Yoki Haru. Luukkonen probably in goal. So, the Ducks. What we have for tonight's game in Anaheim is a team that is doing a little better than maybe their expectation was. They are above 500 by NHL standards, 25, 24, and 7. But that is 25 wins and 32 losses when you count the overtime wins as well. They are not really in a playoff race in the West. They are currently 6 points out. They're in it. That's qualifying, I guess, is in it. Be within 6, and you're in the hunt, right? So the Ducks are in the hunt. They have won 7 of their last 10 to kind of give them a shot at that. Now, if you look at the guys that are kind of leading the way on that, Troy Terry is still their best player, best forward. They've not really got big steps from young guys, and that has kind of let them down. Kind of sounds like the Sabres in some ways, right? One of those players is Mason McTavish, who was a 3rd overall pick 4 years ago. He, after having a couple of 40-point seasons, if I were the Ducks, I'd be hoping for a step up this year, get to like 60 at least. And instead, in 50 games, he has 28 points on the year. He's basically doing exactly the same that he has in past seasons. Another guy that was really highly drafted, 2nd overall 2 years ago, Leo Carlson, same thing. Hey, give me a big step up. Last year, 29 points in 55 games. This year, 22 points in 50 games. You want more from those two guys who were both drafted in the top 3. One bright spot, and actually the only reason I'm even really familiar with this guy is because of fantasy hockey. I picked this guy up about a month ago, and he's been playing a lot of minutes, and he's been putting up some points on the back end. Jackson Lacombe, who is a 2nd-round pick, American defenseman, 2nd-round pick in 2019, 24 years old, of the Anaheim Ducks. Last year was his first full season, and nothing happening. Not a name that you really needed to know. 17 points in 71 games. He was playing 19 minutes a night, a lot of minutes on the second pair for Anaheim, but no power play time. This year, he's starting to look like their top pair defenseman. Or their number 1 defenseman. I mean, he is a top pair defenseman right now. Over 21 minutes a night, and that's going up and up. In the last 2 games, he's played over 25 minutes in each of them. He played over 22 minutes before that, over 24 minutes, a couple of games before that. Like, he's starting to log 24, 25 minutes on a more regular basis. The numbers are there. 27 points on the year in 49 games. So he's on about a 40-plus point pace, which is pretty good for him from the back end. And 9 goals on the year. I don't think that'll hold up. I think, they'll see some regression on the goal scoring. But Jackson Lacombe, look out for him. He's wearing number 2 this year for the Ducks. Pretty good defenseman. I've watched a little bit of him. He moves the puck well. He is got a pretty good mind for the game. I don't know that he has like these elite traits that's going to make him like a top level defenseman. This is probably about as good as he'd ever be, but maybe not. Maybe not. Young guys, you don't really know what the ceiling is. So we'll see. But player to watch on the Anaheim side of things. The Sabres are as big a favorite tonight as I can remember. I tried looking to see the last time they were this big a favorite, and I had trouble finding it. But they are minus 194 over at FanDuel Sportsbook. The Sabres are minus 194 on the money line. The Ducks are plus 160, and the over-under for this game is 6.5 with plus 110 being on the over, minus 134 on the under. My sneaky good bet of the game is going to be first period result. The Sabres to win the first period, plus 135. You get plus money on that because it's a shorter amount of time. The Sabres are the best first period team in the league this year. They have, I believe it's a plus 27 goal differential on the year in the first period. I think the Ducks are a team that's punching above their weight right now. Not a great hockey team. They're fine. They're playing better as of late. But I think them coming from the West Coast, the Sabres are rolling at home. I think playing with a full lineup. Ideally, if Tuck and Zucker are playing, I got the Sabres to win the first period at plus 135 is my sneaky good bet of the night. All right. Sabres and Ducks. We will talk about it after it is over. Hopefully the Sabres get a 6th straight home win and continue to kind of just, chip away at that gap right now for the playoff spot. It's at 11 right now, so they got a lot of chipping to do. If you're looking for more on Alex Ovechkin's great 8 chase, I just forgot to mention Trevor Zegras not playing in this game. He was suspended 3 games for an interference check that he had the other night. So no Zegras for this game is another reason why I'm confident. They're missing, one of their top 6 players. Zegras is not as good as we thought he'd be a couple years ago, but he's still a fine player, and he's not playing tonight. Be sure to check out Locked On NHL for all your around the NHL coverage, whether it's a league-wide story. You get your local coverage, of course, as well from our Locked On hosts. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on our Locked On NHL YouTube page. We will talk to you tomorrow here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.